Hi, my name is Anjum. I'm the worship associate today, and I use she, her pronouns. This is a creative retelling of the Road to Emmaus story from the Gospel of Luke.
Now, that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed things with each other, a fellow traveler came up and walked along with them, who they didn't recognize. He asked them,
What are you discussing together as you walk along?
They stood still with their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, asked him, Are you a visitor to Jerusalem, and you have not heard the things that have happened here in these days?
What things?
About Jesus of Nazareth, they replied. He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one that was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. And in addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early in the morning, but they didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said. But him they did not see. He said to them,
How foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Redeemer of Israel have to suffer these things in order to enter his glory?
And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures according to the messianic prophet. As they approached the village to which they were going, the traveler acted as if he were going further. But they urged him strongly, saying, Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over. So he went in to stay with them.
When he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they thought they recognized him as Jesus of Nazareth. And suddenly, he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other,
Didn't our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road and opened the scriptures to us? Those two fellows walking home from Jerusalem must have been very troubled. The Romans had executed their leader with extreme cruelty. This was the man they thought might be the Messiah, the one to liberate them from Roman oppression. He seemed to think some kind of nonviolent protest would change things. He overturned the tables of the money changers inside the temple and taught the people in the courtyard outside the temple. It didn't work. I'm a liberal progressive. I'm deeply concerned about rising carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. I oppose the presidential executive orders to halt the development of alternatives to fossil fuels. I am deeply concerned watching the rule of law being eroded and innocent people being sent to prisons in El Salvador with the threat of sending U.S. citizens there too. So I can imagine, maybe many of you can too, the lostness and disorientation of those fellows trying to make sense of the drastic changes they saw in Jerusalem. I can feel with them their grief and loss as their hope for change was being undermined. I can imagine their fear that they might be targeted by Rome for persecution too. It feels way too familiar to be dealing with a Caesar who wants to eliminate any and all resistance to his rule. And then they heard about Jesus' tomb being empty. What could that mean? The fellow traveler they met but didn't recognize is intriguing because he doesn't know what's been happening in Jerusalem. They have to explain it all to him. If it had been Jesus resurrected from the tomb they met, it would have been obvious who he was. In other gospel passages of the resurrected Jesus, there is no confusion about who he is. He even wants Thomas to put his hand on his wounds for proof. This wasn't the one they walked with on the road to Emmaus. Or was it? He taught them from the scriptures with authority in a way that inspired them. He broke bread and blessed it the way Jesus did. Was he a ghost and spirit? Maybe some kind of apparition? Remember, this is a story. It's a story. We don't know if it actually happened or not, but actual and fictional stories can carry powerful messages of truth. Whatever he was or wasn't, those two fellows felt the presence of Jesus alive again in their hearts that burned with recognition of the presence of the holy. Rome could not extinguish the fire Jesus started. That fire would become the religion of Rome in less than 300 years. President Trump cannot make the reality of climate change into a hoax and decide it doesn't exist. The fossil fuel industry cannot stop the results of adding more carbon dioxide to the air faster than trees, soil microbes, and oceans can extract and sequester it. Ending support for cleaner energy will only make the problem far, far worse. During the Anthropocene, the new era of human-driven changes to our ecosystem, we now have the responsibility for charting the course for our planet's health. What humanity does and doesn't do matters a great deal. Ignoring our responsibilities will not make them go away. Eliminating climate science and climate scientists will not make them go away either. Thankfully, we live in a world that is bigger than the United States of America. We have great influence in the world, but the pronouncements of one American president cannot erase the truth. That is what the two fellows on the road to Emmaus discovered. They had lost their teacher, their leader, their cause, but the truth they knew that he taught and envisioned could not be erased. Their hearts knew that truth and responded to it, even though their eyes and their ears may not have recognized it. President Trump can't erase the truth, the dharma of climate change, and tries to do so at his peril. Sooner or later, his lies, his karma will catch up with him. The deeply sad part is the great suffering that is being caused and will be caused. This is part of the bitterness of the human condition. However, like Bulby surviving the ice crystal's attack and blooming again, may we cherish and celebrate the rebirth of life this spring. May it remind us of what we must fight to protect. May that beauty energize our resistance to an administration uninterested in environmental protection and the prevention of global climate change. May our hearts continue to burn with the truth of our love for this planet and act to save it. May we act to save it knowing we may not live to see the results of our actions. May we know the work, the advocacy we do today will be very precious for future generations. So be it.